Hello, everyone. Welcome to Thriving Through Trials, the program that's dedicated to bringing hope and inspiration to those facing debilitating or potentially debilitating diseases and challenges. I'm Dr. Samantha Benjamin Allen, a board-certified physical medicine and rehabilitation physician and the founder of Freedom Wellness Physiatry, a direct specialty rehabilitation consulting practice serving the DMV in the home setting. In this show, we'll be shining a light on remarkable individuals who have survived and thrived beyond their circumstances. We'll be exploring their journeys, their resilience, and the strategies they've used to regain mobility, independence, and improve their quality of life. Our goal is to empower, encourage, and motivate you, our viewers, and provide a source of inspiration in the face of adversity. Join us as we uncover stories of triumph and learn how to thrive through life's toughest trials. Today, we have a special guest, Joel Bullard, on our episode entitled Thriving After Traumatic Brain Injury. And he is an amazing survivor of many other things, so we might touch on that today. So join us. Joel, thank you for being here, and introduce yourself to us.
Good morning, Dr. Benjamin. Thank you for having me. I am Joel Bullard, and I am the Chief Operating Officer of Assurance Healthcare Services and Assurance Elder Care, where we provide private duty skilled nursing and also take care of seniors in assisted living setting.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about your journey through traumatic brain injury and how it started, what happened, what was the event, and what was the journey through recovering? Kind of how long did it take you to get to a place where you felt like you were functioning in society again as you would like? And tell me about kind of what helped in the process.
Hey, well, it was an interesting experience for me. At the age of 15, my family relocated here from the West Coast. And we were in the Maryland area for just a few months, actually. And two of my siblings, my oldest sister and my older brother, I'm the youngest of five, we were on our way to the store, and unfortunately, sadly, we didn't make it there. It was in a very tragic car accident. And on the scene, actually, I was hurt the worst. And I was told when the paramedics arrived, they actually pronounced me dead.
Wow.
And so a second team of paramedics came while the initial team was tending to my brother and sister who sustained injuries, pretty serious injuries, but mine was the worst because I was unfortunately, sadly, sitting in the back and without a seatbelt. So
Oh, no.
always wear your seatbelt.
Yes, always wear your seatbelt.
And we ended up hitting a tree stump that was located near the road. It was at night. My sister was driving, and so we hit this tree stump, and I was projected forward, and I was blessed not to go through the windshield, but I hit the rear view mirror, which I sustained multiple fractures in my skull, broke my nose in two places, broke my jaw in two places.
Wow.
And so once the second paramedic team arrived, and I was told they found a pulse, I was rushed to Holy Cross Hospital, which is locally in this area, but the accident was only a mile and a half from Suburban Hospital, but the accident was only a mile and a half from Holy Cross Hospital. So my siblings were taken to Holy Cross. And that began a very long, tough journey of recovery. I spent 3 weeks in intensive care. I spent a week in, I guess, standard care, and then I was released. But within a couple of days after being released, I experienced a lot of clear fluid coming from my nose. And so contacted my doctor, my neurologist, and found out that was
Cerebral spinal fluid.
spinal fluid
Yeah.
coming from the fractures in my brain coming through my nose. So at that point, I was told I had to have a craniotomy, and at 15 years old, that was foreign language to me. I was like, what's a craniotomy? And I was told, well, we got to cut into your skull and that's, we got to go in and fix the fracture, which is the main fracture, which is right above the bridge of your nose, which is where I had, I believed, who had hit the rear view mirror and which lacerated my nose and broke my nose. So that at 15 tried to come to grips with the fact that, wait a minute, you got to cut my skull open.
Yeah.
And at a time where we just relocated from the West Coast, so I didn't have many friends. Just starting to really get to know myself as a young man, just starting to like girls, and it was tough. So that surgery took place, and that was probably one of the toughest moments, because when I woke up from that surgery and got a look at myself, that was really, really mentally tough for me, because my hair was gone. I had these stitches across my skull, which made me think of Frankenstein. I had stitches in my nose.
Yeah.
My nose was split open, and then my jaws were wired shut because of the fractures in my jaw. So I had all these multiple things going on with my face, and it was pretty traumatic. And so that began the mental and physical journey of, okay, how am I going to overcome this?
Yes. So when you were in the ICU, you said you were in there for 3 weeks.
Yes.
Was there a period of time where you came to consciousness, and kind of walk us through the time period in the ICU to when you became aware of your situation? I'm guessing that you lost consciousness. You didn't mention it, but was that part of your experience?
Yes. Well, it's a good question. I did lose consciousness from the immediate impact, but I woke up in the trauma center and I couldn't see. And I'm talking, and I didn't realize this until later, after talking with my neurosurgeon. I said, I was talking and I couldn't see. He said, yes, you were. You were asking a lot of questions, but you couldn't see because you had blood in your eyes. And that's why you couldn't see. And then after that moment, I was unconscious, but they put me in a comatose state for about 3 days to help with my recovery.
Okay.
Once they brought me out of that and I woke up in ICU, I actually thought I was at the grocery store, because that's where
That's the last place
that was
you were headed.
That was the last thought that I had in my mind. And when I woke up in the hospital, I was scared, and where am I? What am I doing? What's going on? I had all these tubes in me, and so that was a shocking awakening for me. And so that was I guess the first moment when I realized, wow, this really did happen. This wasn't a dream.
And you said that they had pronounced you dead on the scene. Now, that is an interesting concept in consciousness, because there are times when people have been pronounced dead, but they're hearing. And hearing is one of the last things to go. So did you hear them saying these things when they came to the scene?
I did.
Were you aware of any of that?
I was not aware of any of that at all. My oldest sister was fully conscious throughout the whole thing, and she was the one who so was my brother, but my sister was so worried about me, because she said that I was screaming, but I don't remember any of that. But prior to that, they had wrote DOA on the car, dead on arrival.
Wow.
On the vehicle, and so yeah, but I don't remember any of that. Only what I just mentioned about waking up in the hospital.
In the hospital, gotcha. Well, thank God you survived that. Now you're doing great things in the community, and we can talk a little bit more about that as well. But tell me, as you were recovering, what was the most helpful thing either that someone did for you, or something that you experienced in your healing journey that helped you get to the place of recovery?
Yeah, the most helpful is really love and support from those who are close to you. I think that is I mean, honestly, it's hard to even quantify the value of that.
Hmm.
Um, because I was just it was such a difficult mental and physical journey for me. And then the encouragement that I got from my mother and father, particularly my mother, my siblings, but my mother who's RN, by the way, and so and
Oh,
she's
my mom's a nurse too.
okay, and so she was no stranger to the mental and healing, the physical healing journey of individuals.
Uh-huh.
And so this particular case, it was her son, um, or children, actually, that I was the worst off. But yeah, just the love and support was, and the patience and
Yes.
the encouragement
Hmm.
I got, and my family was big on that, on the encouragement process, because it's hard mentally to restart.
Right.
And whether you are, something happens to you young in life or older in life, if you're born with something, that's a different journey in itself, I guess, because you're that's all you know.
Right.
But if you develop something later in life, or whether it's genetic or due to an injury, it's hard to restart. It's very, very difficult to restart. And so that encouragement and support and love is so important to help the mental
Yes.
and physical.
Love is a powerful healing force. So I'm glad you were able to experience that and the encouragement and the support along the journey. I'm sure that was a blessing in the process. Now, while you were transitioning from ICU to the step down unit, did you undergo any rehabilitation while you were in the hospital? What was the transition between hospital and home for you?
No, the rehabilitation honestly was the mental aspect.
Okay.
I had um, social workers coming in, basically discussing with me what happened.
Mm-hmm.
The it was interesting because of the damage in my to my skull, my face.
Uh-huh.
They weren't sure if how my vision would be. They weren't sure if what sort of lasting effects it would have, and it did. I went through. My vision was fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thankful and
That's
blessed for
awesome.
that. But
Yeah.
I did have for several years, I had fainting spells. So
Uh,
that that was interesting to navigate, because I was 15 when the car accident happened. And honestly, the fainting spells lasted till I was probably in my probably 19, 20 years old.
wow.
And
Did you find
so
yourself sharing your experience with others so that they would be aware? I remember I had a teacher in college who would have fainting spells. In our first day of class, she said, "Students, I want you to know something about me. I tend to fall out randomly. I just want you guys to be aware of this. If this happens, I want you to sit me down, lay me on my back, and lift my legs up and call 911." And she was very calm about it. But that just opened the space for vulnerability and a good relationship with our teacher. And it did happen in the course of the semester, and we knew what to do. So I bring that up to ask if you were open about this, or was it something you had shame about? How did you navigate that?
well, it was interesting trying to navigate that. Yes, of course, my immediate family were fully aware that it could happen at any moment, and
Mm-hmm.
very little warning. But my closest friends, they knew, because again, at that 17, 18, 19-year old, I would go out with my friends
Mm-hmm.
and get involved with different activities. And next thing I know, I'm blacking out and they're waking me up. Joel, 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 you okay?
Yeah.
Okay. But most of the time I had, you know, I could feel it coming on. It was almost like having a uh I guess for those who experience like hot flashes
Uh-huh.
or or a headache, and the headache just starts to come on, and you know you better do something, otherwise it's going to get worse.
Right.
But for me, it was seconds. So I would have anywhere from like 3 to 5 second warning. And so a lot of times I would sit down or go right down to my knees, depending on, and then I would black out. So I wouldn't fall from a full standing position. And
Yeah.
that was my goal, not to do that to cause further injury. But no,
Right.
I didn't share it with many. This, at this point in my life, I guess I'm sharing it to your audience now. But,
Yeah, it's all a journey of growth, and being able to talk about things comes with the process and the healing. So
yeah.
thank you for sharing. Now, what would you say is the biggest surprise that you've had along your journey to this point?
I guess is I guess there's probably, I guess, me kind of compartmentalize that. There were some surprises based on the diagnoses from the physicians. This and this can happen. Like I mentioned,
Mhm.
they thought I would have double or triple vision. They thought
Mhm.
that my physical abilities would be limited. They felt that I may have some cognitive issues and things like that. I guess the probably mentally dealing with, okay, the possibility of these things happening, but the biggest surprise and the blessing that none of those things did happen.
That's
And
wonderful.
so I'm truly thankful for that. I mean, I had to overcome again the fainting. I had to overcome the physical aspect of getting myself physically able to just function normally. And
Uh-huh.
grew up very athletic. My whole family were all extremely competitive, running
Mhm.
track, baseball, basketball, football. My brother and I, my sisters, track and field, volleyball, swimming. All of us swam competitively.
Nice.
So we did a lot of
Track is
different
my
things
sport.
growing up on the West Coast. Okay, so
Yeah.
so trying to overcome that. So that was probably the biggest surprise again, that the fact that the diagnoses from the physicians, and maybe they were just trying to tell me the extreme possibilities. But the way they were telling me, it was almost as if they were certain I was going to experience one or more of these things.
Ah, and that's a key point that you just mentioned. Nothing is certain, and every individual journey is different. And I like to encourage patients to imagine the possibilities rather than to focus on the limitations, because a lot of times when they come to the rehab setting, they've been told you'll never walk again, you'll never do this, or you're going to have this. And sometimes we can fixate on that prognosis that's been given to us, and that's not necessarily going to be our story. Yes, it's helpful. I think what providers tend to do is try to prepare people for the worst, so in case it happens, they don't feel surprised. But I think it's good to focus on the possibility that that actually might not be any of what you end up
Absolutely.
with. So I think you've made a very key point in saying that, so I just wanted to highlight that. Thank you for sharing that. So you don't have any of the deficits that they said you would have after that accident.
No, no. I have been blessed. I'm so thankful. Like I said, it was a journey though. It was years
Yeah,
of of definitely being mentally and physically disciplined to
yeah,
overcome the challenges that I had to overcome. But that's a mindset that you have to have if you want to, if you have the opportunity to do so, to have a normal, I guess what we call, equate to a normal life.
hmm,
So once I realized that I could achieve that, I had to mentally discipline myself and physically be disciplined in order to get to this point.
nice. Now, how many years did you take to feel quote unquote normal? From the age of 15 to what age did you finally feel like I can get back to doing I know you're a cyclist, so I'm just putting that out there. I can get back to my cycling. I can get back to, you share that your family is highly athletic and competitive. So How long did it take you to get back to that place where you were hitting the road again?
Yeah, honestly, it took years. I must say probably 6 to 7 years, so 15 till I was about 21, 22 years old
Okay.
before I got to that point where the fainting spells, where I was no longer worried about passing out because the fainting spells went from honestly a few times a week to a few times a month and then a few
Mm,
times a year. And so as time went on, I just knew that, okay, it's getting better. It's getting better. So that was really mentally encouraging for me, um, because early on, obviously blacking out, feeling weak early on. So, but it was about a good 6 to 7 years of really challenging times mentally and physically. So,
And you mentioned your mindset, a lot of working on your mindset and disciplining your mind. What mindset would you share with the audience from your personal experience has helped you to overcome?
okay. Well, as you know, Dr. Benjamin, I'm a man of faith, and so
Yes.
that's my foundation. There's no question about that. I trust and believe in the promises that God has. So that's the foundation right there. And I would put those promises to the test. First and foremost, God will never give you more than you can bear. And so I would challenge the Lord on that. I'm like, okay, yeah, there are reasons why I'm in this situation. So I wasn't
Hmm.
blaming anyone for that. Uh,
Hmm.
I chose to go to the store. My sister and brother and I, we were talking and we were speeding, and it was dark.
Hmm.
And so those were decisions that we made that put us in this situation. There are those who unfortunately um, do and say all the right things and they get put in catastrophic situations. But the bottom line is that once you realize this is my new existence, then you
Hmm.
have to make a conscious decision. So my foundation is faith, and then trusting in God's promises again, and then from that deciding, making a decision that I don't want to live this way if I don't have to. I want to try to do the best I can. If I have to live with some sort of debilitating physical or mental um, uh, injury, then a mindset, then I will. But that's not what I want.
Right. Amen, my brother. Now tell me, what take home message could you share with our audience, um, given what you've gone through? We have about 7 minutes left. I know there have been other traumatic events that you've experienced, and you're open to share a few of them before we give your take home message. Um, Tell me about the blood clot. You had a pulmonary embolism, is that right?
Yeah, yes, it was huge. Matter of fact, you probably can Google the case study on that one because I know it became a huge national study. I was on my way to work
Uh-huh.
early one morning, and a tractor trailer driver fell asleep and hit another tractor trailer, and then the car jackknifed, and then it
Oh,
hit my car and pinned me against the Jersey wall. And so
whew.
I eventually climbed out of the car before the paramedics got there. And then I thought I was fine, other than getting shook up. And I went to work, um, and about 3 hours, 4 hours later, my left arm swelled up 3 times the size and turned purple.
Mm.
Drove over to a suburban hospital, and that's when I was told at that moment that I had a huge blood clot in my chest, just on it. I guess it was on the side where the blood is exiting the heart versus
Uh-huh.
entering the heart. So I don't know the technical aspects of
Yeah.
that, medical, but that saved my life. And so I spent a couple of weeks in ICU, on blood thinners and then remained on blood thinners for multiple years after that, until I got to a point where it was no longer necessary. So that was a physical and mental journey in my mid-20s that I had.
Wow. So right after you felt you recovered or got to quote
Yes.
unquote normal, bam, you get in another accident. Oh my
Here
goodness.
comes the other domino, exactly.
You're like what they say, the cat with 9 lives. Oh my goodness. All right. And then you had another one.
I did have
Let's
another
touch on
one.
that.
I was doing some work in my late 40s,
Uh-huh.
early 50s in Africa, been to West Africa multiple times. But the last time I went, I got a virus, and that virus, they to this day I don't know what it was, and no physician could figure out what it was, but it shut down my muscles, and it was attacking my organs. So my kidneys were shutting down, my liver, my joints and muscles. It crippled me. I couldn't walk. I was in severe pain, and I had a temperature of 107.
Woo.
And so I ended up in Georgetown, Georgetown University Infectious Disease Board, and one of the top specialists in the country worked there, and she was a physician who specialized in viruses, but she couldn't figure it out. And so they basically tried to manage my pain for the couple of weeks that I was there. And again, I'm a man of faith, and one of my best friends came, and he had a friend who flew in from California, and he was a pastor, and I didn't know that at the time. And he came in, he said, hey, they call me Jay. He said, hey, Jay, my friends here from California, we want to anoint you. And I was like, anoint me? I was like, man, I'm not dying. What are you talking about? But I actually was dying.
You were dying. What you're telling me sounds like you were dying, but you didn't know.
I was dying. Yeah, everything was shutting down, and
Yeah.
fever, and so I had a revelation seconds after I said that to them, and they were standing there kind of quiet. And I said, I'm sorry. I said, you're right. I said, I'm a man of faith, and I know that. I believe that. So they anointed me, and the next morning, my fever had broke, and I was hungry, and I spent
Appetite came back, everything.
I came back. I spent another 2 days there, them checking me out, and they released me, and I've been great ever since. So.
Wonderful. So we're going to wrap up now. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Absolutely.
What would be your take-home message to share with the audience before we close?
Well, I guess I would just ask each person to ask themselves, how do you want to live your life? Once you realize you have this physical or mental challenge that you have in your life now, no matter how it came about, whether it was genetic, whether it was through tragedy like mine, or something that just developed later in life, no matter what it was, asking yourself, how do you want to live your life? Search for the positive aspects of your diagnoses. Look at it in a way that, hey, I have this, okay, it's terrible, yes, but I want to still have the best life I can have. I want to try to function the best that I can, and then seek out the positive ways that you can do that, through mental support, through physical support, and just continue to try to strive. And it could take years, like my journey took years, but just continuously ask yourself, how do I want to live? How do I want to live? Don't give up, because it'll be hard. Make sure you're surrounded by people who love you, people who support you, encourage you, but continue. It has to come from within. It has to come from within, telling yourself, I want more, I want better, mentally, physically, whatever you're dealing with. And again, I'm a man of faith, and I believe God will bless you.
Thank you so much, Joel. I'm so glad to have had you today, and thank you everyone for tuning in to Thriving Through Trials. If you've been inspired by the incredible stories shared on this show and would like to stay connected with us, you can find Freedom Wellness Physiatry spelled Physiatry, on YouTube and Facebook at the same name. And if you are a loved one in the DMV and severely debilitated and desire to achieve increased mobility, independence, function, and quality of life at home, I invite you to join us at Freedom Wellness Physiatry, and you can go to our website at freedomwellnessphysiatry.com to book an appointment, and we make house calls in the DMV. So we're happy to work with you and help you along your journey to wellness and purpose in spite of your circumstances. And if you would like to be on our show, contact me at info@freedomwellnessphysiatry.com, and we'll be happy to have you. Thank you so much again, Joel, and we'll talk again.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me, Dr. Benjamin.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.